Hello, dear Sangha, here and at home or on Zoom. If you're in person, please silence your phones and mute your microphones if you are on. Well, that doesn't apply today, so don't worry about that. Our next retreat coming up is Practicing with Karma with John Orr, and that's July 14th through the 18th. Venerable Panyawadi is offering a book study. It's each Thursday at 5 p.m. The book is Learning from Buddha by Buddha Master Dorje Chang, Buddha III. If you're interested in joining, please visit the retreat page on our website and select the book study option. Fully vaccinated Sangha members, we're so excited to have you here. And you can continue to come on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays during Dharma, as well as Thursday for book study. Please like, follow, and share Heartwood and Thrifty Treasures on all social media to help spread the Dharma and further Heartwood's mission. Thank you.
So good morning. It's just amazing how things come together in Buddha land, and if we are tuned in, if we're tapped in, if we're sensitive, and if we can get out of ourselves enough, we can get the right signal so that we know what to do, the right thing to do, the right thing to say, the right way to be in every circumstance. And so, I don't know. Let me see if that's true or not. Yep. And so we were thinking about a song for this week, and usually the Dharma talk comes and we have to find a song that matches the Dharma talk, but this time the song came, and I was thinking, like, what's going to be a Dharma talk around that, and then something happened. I was at the store, and I was like kind of straightening up the book bin, or I was just straightening up, and my eyes fell on a book in the book bin, and I picked it up and I started reading it, and it took me a little bit further, and then I went into the Dharma and I found something else, and the whole talk evolved. So today I'd like to talk to you about enlightenment and what I think enlightenment is. There's a scripture that says that no scripture is of any private interpretation, and that has been translated to mean so you can't decide what it means for yourself. But what I think it means is you can't tell me what it means, and so we see things, as we are and as we understand, and as our mind projects or creates, a certain reality. And all the teachers say that we don't see it as it actually is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about enlightenment today. And this is not the only explanation. Ask me tomorrow, I have a different idea of what it is. But speaking of a kind of liberation, a kind of return to a primordial state of mind. Some call it the original mind. Some call it the Christ consciousness. Some call it the Buddha nature. But it's beyond our personality view of who and what we think we are and what we think the world is. And Gautama and masters who we rediscovered a path leading to this kind of awakening encourage us to go on our own journey to realize it. And that's the only way we can know. We can't get it from reading it in a book. We can't lean on the methods as the thing. We'll just walk away with methodologies in the mind and intellectual knowledge. And so there are many masters who have traversed that path themselves, and they leave a record of it as an encouragement to us. Some are in the body, and some have transformed bodies. So they're in other realms, no longer in this body, but one realm superseding another can drop down into a physical manifestation. So Buddhism is not a school, it's not a philosophy, and depending on your definition of religion, if it's anything other than how you walk out life, then it's not a religion. But it is a view of reality based on experiencing the innate luminous nature of your own mind. And throughout the teachings, we're given ways to see or to understand things that break whatever current delusion we have, whatever current grasping we have, whatever enchantment. That sounds like a great word, enchantment. But enchantment is actually being caught up, wrapped up, bound by something. And we have that round of this life that we hold in samsara, and that's what causes our continual unhappiness, confusion, suffering, and the resulting continual rounds of rebirth in samsara, which is codified by birth, dukkha, old age, sickness, and death. And it presents the truth of the availability of a total union as peace itself, or as wisdom itself, or as love itself. You know, there's a passage in the Bible, and they don't talk about it that much. They talk about a loving God, but there's one that says God is love. So it's what we actually do, not what we think about ourselves, that tell the real story. And the teachings and the themes and the signposts that these teachers give us encourage us to recognize and to cultivate and to establish and to maintain an awareness of this innate nature of mind. And right intention, understanding, and practice developed by willingness and effort allow us to go beyond normal limits of time and space, words and concepts, and even beyond creation and destruction. And so there are experiences that one has in meditation that break down these boundaries of perception for us. And I don't care how much slow walking you do, and I don't care, how much sitting and not talking, but the mind is just, like in a constant chatter you do. That's not going to be your point of liberation. That this is something that is beyond our external actions. It's a transformation that takes place in the deepest levels of our being, and it emanates out and it emanates outward. So this kind of mind that we're talking about, touching, and I hesitate to use the word consciousness because we think we kind of know what that is based on human consciousness, but I will say that this kind of for lack of a better word, because it does go beyond words and concepts. The Buddha said, that's why I can't tell you, I can only point, but you have to experience it. And when you do experience it, you know for yourself that it is true. So when I'm talking with somebody about an experience, and they may be very knowledgeable in terms of worldly science as it has unfolded to this point, or some other claim to fame in terms of worldly knowledge in explaining the universe, but they'll say, "Oh, well, I don't believe that." And do you think I care whether they believe it or not? If you have an experience, if I had an experience, I'll say that I wouldn't believe it myself, but because I have, I can know something is true. That's why I say never get into an argument with naysayers or doubters. I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose but to reinforce the doubt and maybe cut them off from ever really experiencing because they were so tenaciously attached to their view that that's not possible, or that couldn't happen, or that didn't happen. And so even when we're sharing, it takes some wisdom to know who to share with and how much to share, and I'll talk about that as I wrap up my talk today. But this kind of consciousness drops us or lands us at the pure base of all existence, and as the mind gains freedom through this experience, this direct experience, it becomes limitless. It just starts expanding more and more and more, and we can experience clear light and the ability to manifest light and to even extend light. So you notice that in the Visuddhimagga, when it's talking about when you get a particular sign in meditation, that then you begin to work with that sign, expanding the field, contracting the field, moving it. So there's something that you do. We're not like just sitting here waiting, hit me again, hit me again. There's something that we're doing in meditation, that we are building it's like looking at weights and saying, I want to lift 5 pounds, so that's good. Now I want to lift 10 pounds and never picking up a weight. You know, there's a part that we play in our development other than just showing up. So we say sometimes just show up. I'm going to tell you it's more than just showing up. When you show up, there's something that is required, something that you have to do. And if people don't know, then the expectation for what is possible is not fostered. And so we needlessly roll around in the suffering of our own mental lack of exercise by reason of use. In other words, we don't put our faculties into use, and so we don't see that we never know their capacities, but what we are actually capable of. And during the meditations of simply sitting in this awareness, once one has cultivated the opening for this awareness to be present, you know, then there's no struggle and there's no feeling of being at war with anybody or anything, not even being at war with yourself. A lot of our discomfort, our dis-ease, a lot of our neurosis has to be around how we think about ourselves and what we think about ourselves. And then we think other people are thinking that about ourselves. And I'm thinking like you think too highly of yourself and nobody's even thinking about you, you know. But we think, because we are so self-centered, because we sit at the center of our life, we think everybody's thinking about us, either good or bad, but it's just not true. You know, one time they were talking to the Buddha, and I can't say this too much. I think I say it almost every talk, but I'm going to keep saying it. You know, his disciples, he said, what do you think of me? He said, we think you really love us, you know, because you're always teaching us things, you're always taking care of us, and you always know. He said, actually, that's not true. You know, so there's even a space that we can get into if we're not careful, that we take good things that we do, and good things that we think, and good actions that we perform, and we build an edifice around that. So some people are enamored with their goodness or with somebody else's goodness, but it's a setup for a trap is what I'm saying to you. You know, not good and not bad. So when we talk about emptiness and we talk about, you know, relinquishing the self, that's why it's so important, because being too good or thinking of oneself too good as good is also a trap. So there's no struggle when we reach a certain place, but of course we have to reach that place. I liken it to being on the seashore, and I use sea because it doesn't have as much sand. It has more like dirt, and seaweed grows up. So when you're there and you're beginning to wade out, you know, the seaweed kind of gets all around your ankles and between your toes, and it kind of trips you up, and you have that mixture of kind of sandy kind of dirt, and when it's not compacted like when you go to the ocean, and so your feet kind of sink into it, and when you have to like pick it up, if you've been at the seashore, you know what I mean. But the further out you go, then the seaweed kind of goes away, and you start to experience a little more ease as you're moving out. And then you go a little bit further, and you start to feel the buoyancy of the water, and it makes it even easier to tread out further. And you go all the way out, and you get up here around chest height or a little bit more, and now you're almost tiptoeing because you can't stay like grounded. You can't. You can no longer walk on the bottom because of the impact of the buoyancy of the water on the body. And then you go a little bit further, and you're just floating. Now you go out far enough, then there's the current, and the current picks up, and the current takes you where you have to go. But in the beginning, it took effort, it took energy, it took will. It required something of you. And that's how it is moving out of darkness into light. You have to have more hands-on to feel where you are, to know where things are, to remember where things are. And so, although we identify with the most concrete part of us, which is our physical body, actually, we're energy. Every thought, every word, every feeling, everything is energy. That's what the scientists tell us. Things that appear to be solid are actually very tightly compacted particles of energy, creating shape and form and physical matter by bombarding and attaching to each other. So we are energetic receivers and transmitters, connected to a wider field beyond just our chemical and our cellular and our molecular levels or aspects of being. Heart math, and I think most of you have heard of heart math, and they really work with a coherence of the impulses of the heart that actually rule the brain. There are more impulses going from the heart to the brain than from the brain to the heart. But because we're so heady and high-minded, we pay more attention. We're more aware of these. This is the way our particular culture has trained us. And so, but heart math has demonstrated a radiant field coming from the heart region, and that they have measured out. It was at one time 15 feet when I was working with heart math, and that was about 20 years ago. So I don't know how far out they've been able to imagine, and that's why when people come to Heartwood, and they'll talk about, like, I feel something here, like when they come for a retreat, like, I don't know what it is, like, that's okay, they don't have to know, but when we're thinking about them coming, when we're joyfully preparing for them to come, when we're trying to make sure that everything is right for the right amount of comfort, not too much comfort, but the right amount of comfort. Sometimes they want more comfort. Sometimes they leave notes on the door. I like to have such and such kind of tea, and I like to have it by breakfast the next morning. No, can do good, buddy. And so, it's like just really helping them to get in the right space of relinquishing demands, because they're so used to it, they don't even think of it as demand. They thought of that as a request, but, this is not a hotel. And so, although they didn't mean any harm by it, it's a training to have fewness of wishes. I mean, that's why you're coming, So if you come, but you come with a whole bunch of wishes, then you defeat your own purpose. So we're already here, so we don't mind. But if you've taken the time to come, to set aside, to take off from work, then make the time count. And so we're here to support and help them in that. And so sometimes doing something that a person does not feel happy about doesn't mean that it wasn't the right, the most beneficial thing to do. But one learns to do that and not be so concerned about whether they are understood or not, or whether they are appreciated or not, or whether, you just do what you know is the right thing to do. And that's it. That's the doing of it. And there's a great relief and a great release that comes when one can live this way. The anxiety goes poof. One's no longer like anxious about how they will be received. I'm only anxious about how the Dharma receives what I do. You know, I'm looking to see if I'm in the center of that, but that's the level or the extent of my belief, and everybody has their own level and their own extent. What's in your wallet? You know, you have to know for yourself how much you hold to something, how much meaning it has in your life. And when you know that, and sometimes you can look at it like, I do it all the time, find why you need to work on that. You know, but at least I know I'm not, you know, ignorance is not bliss. At least I know, even if I can't work on it right now, even if I feel like I'm doing the best that I can do, and then try just a little bit more. Even when I don't understand something, like I just don't get it. If I don't get it, I'll just say, I just don't get it. You know, and that's right, somebody might try to help me to get it, or maybe I'll have to go through some experience that gets my attention so that I get it. But just knowing where we are is a good first step. So we know when we've done good. We know when we need to put forth more effort. We know when we could have done good, but we made the decision not to, because for some reason we thought that being or responding in that way had a particular benefit for us. It might be something as simple as saving face, you know, that could cause us like great suffering, you know, but we thought at that moment that was the most important thing, you see. And so we learn through experience. Of course, we don't have to experience everything. I don't have to stick my hand in the fire, and no fire burns. I didn't learn that from you sticking your hand in the fire. And so we can learn from others what not to do, and so we don't have to experience everything firsthand. Of course, as Pandita says, some of us are knuckleheads, and we do it, and sometimes we have to do it 5 times before we decide that's not exact. I don't like the outcome, you know, and I want to I'll do something else. And then sometimes in a particular life, we never learn that particular lesson. You know, the conditions didn't come together in the right way that we could really see it, or that we could really get it. So sometimes we're trying to enforce something on someone else that's our work to do, but they may not have the capacity to do. When I say capacity, I don't mean because they're like mentally limited. I don't mean it in that way. I mean that all of the factors haven't come together in a way that paints a picture that they can see it. And so while we are off hating on folk, you know, it's a defilement in our own mind that's greater than whatever we consider a defilement on their behalf. That's why it takes so much time to like work on ourselves. We just really don't have time for anybody else. But as we do this, and as we become encouraged because of our own efforts, that allows us to also see the efforts of others. Or it allows us to also see when one is too feeble to do a certain thing or carry out things in a certain way. And compassion arises for them, and compassion also arises for ourselves. So the Nobel Prize winner Max Planck said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as a derivative of consciousness, and therefore consciousness is in everything, and it's a force moving through everything. So all things are alive with energy and light that we can participate in directing, through focus, through intention, and through conscious creation." Just think about that. You know, in that moment when something's happening, do we have the capacity for focus, right intention, and conscious creation? Or are we like batting at the wind and just fighting demons everywhere, fighting the enemy and turned upside down in our feelings and in our emotions, running away with us? Or are we directed through focus, intention to produce, to consciously create in that moment the thought, giving, what's the word I want to use? Giving life to it, but there's a particular word I want to.
Manifest?
No, I'll think of it in a minute, because that particular word, but giving life to it, animating it, and that's not the word either, but we are creating the framework for something to come into manifestation. But we do that with our thoughts. This building and everything that we see in it was a figment in somebody's mind. And so one obstacle that I could say we have in today's science is understanding that since our projected consciousness interacts with what is real, that's what the mystics all tell us, that it's almost impossible to be objective in research situations. It's almost impossible because there is that interaction. They say that even when for something to come into manifestation, that there's an interaction that changes a wave into a particle. And this is all scientific-y stuff, But he says there's a way that we can know this. We don't have to be physicists and all of these kinds of things. It just becomes a natural kind of understanding to a practitioner. And maybe we explain it in other ways, and that's why we have so many bodies of knowledge, because many different people explaining different things, or explaining maybe the same thing in a different way. I call this water, and I don't know, scientists might call it H2O, but they're the same. They're the same thing. A rose by any name is still a rose. So also, while I'm speaking about Buddhism, and I'm speaking of it as an experience, it is not to say that you can only have it through Buddhism, or you can have it only through the Buddhist Dharma gate, because he doesn't speak about the Buddhist Dharma gate, he just speaks about the Dharma gate, And so in different spaces and different places, you'll use different jargon to express the same concepts or to express the same experiences. So we don't have to get caught up in so much of an identification, other than just what's useful for conventional, interacting and speaking. But we should never think like ours is the only truth, something like that. Okay. So Buddha understood that it's difficult or almost impossible, to be objective, because the mind influences us. He said whatever we think and ponder on becomes the inclination of the leaning of the mind. So the more you think and ponder on something from a certain viewpoint, the more entrenched in that viewpoint you become, and the more of that you see from the inside out. And in that way, we do create, our experience of reality. And so he warned that our intention then is the greatest influencer of what is created. And that's why the cultivation of virtue is the principal thing in one's practice. That's why I talk so much about virtue and the cultivation of virtue, as opposed to how Buddhism can be used to help you to, enjoy life more, or be more, peaceful or be less frantic or be less. It's not those things. Anybody can teach you some of those things, but this is a path that leads towards the cultivation of the highest virtues, because that's the basis of what one creates with one's own mind. So we think of this energy or frequency, some people call it, or they liken it to light. And when we talk about enlightenment, so we could think of it as a frequency, and if we could raise our frequency through pondering what would be the highest quality of thought, speech, or action in this situation, this one right here, not like all situations and not like hypothetical situations, but this one right here that has just presented itself or come to mind, then we create a mind that begins to continually lean in that direction, in the direction of mercy and compassion and forgiveness and harmony and peace. And in this way, we peel away the masks of personality roles. This is it's nothing worse than wearing a mask like they have, like the cheap Halloween masks, and they don't have cutouts like for you to breathe and and a cutout around the mouth. They just have the cutouts for the eyes. And when you wear one of those masks, it's like hard. It's hard to breathe in them. But if you could think of our personality and our personality roles like that mask, and we begin to peel away this mask, then we actually liberate our intrinsic nature, which is, just love itself, and we find ourselves able to fearlessly and to totally serve others. Albert Einstein said, "For the rest of my life, I will reflect on what life is." And now, I think it started in the 1990s. We have a branch of biology that's called biophotonics. And it examines and it's measuring. It actually considers this the fifth circulatory system of moving light in the human body. Of course, the Chinese a long time ago, like 5,000, 6,000 years ago, and the Vedics, like 5,000 or 4,000 years ago, they discovered all of these systems without all of the highfalutin scientific, equipment that we have today. This energy and this light moving around in the body, and where there are blockages and how to release them for healing. So it's a high level of healing, so much more than Sister Soma just had a knee replacement and a hip replacement. It's like barbaric. You sort of saw, and I look at some of the sciences that were prevalent thousands and thousands of years ago, but it seems like the more we begin to think of ourselves as knowing, like from Homo sapiens to, the man that knows to Homo sapiens, which we all want, the man who knows he knows, but hopefully we will move to the place that we become homos universalis. That's what I found this, and they were talking about with the increasing in a consciousness and the practices that lead to the refinement of the mind stream, universalis, right? And then after that, homo luminous, and then that's as we're moving, translating out of, matriculating into the lineage of the awakened one. And so he talks about the different stages of learning or the different stages of training for the human species. He talks about the ordinary, run-of-the-mill, untaught human, and then he begins to lay out 3 levels of training. And the first one just starting with how to be happier in this life, thinking like this life isn't tomorrow you die, but how to be happier. And then it goes on to more extended understanding of the life stream, and then on to even coming to the end of beginnings. So, it's possible for us to use alchemy to change negative energy, to transform, to transmute negative energy into positive energy. And you could just say that means to turn unuseful energies into useful energies. One knows when one is in a dysfunctional mental and emotional state. One knows when one is in a physical dysfunctional state. But if there's enough internal life force and the capacity to tune in to supporting energetic channels, we can transmute, we can transform heavy, defeating energies into positive, light, and useful ones. I mean, one knows for oneself when they're in like what I call a bad mood, when they're feeling ill, when they're angry, when they're frustrated, how the whole, just you as a total person, how you feel out of whack, how the jitteriness or the fear that rises. It's like a man fleeing and nobody's chasing him, or how heavy, like waterlogged one feels, how tired one feels. And we're always giving ourselves the litmus test, how do I feel today, and even without asking how do we feel, one is always tapped in to feeling, to how they feel. So feeling is very important. To try to say the jettison feeling out the back door is the wrong way to go about it. Then we just become detached, as in like dead, But he says that one should know when a pleasant feeling is in them, or when an unpleasant one is in them. One should know what state they're in, what mental state they're in, what physical state they're in. And so we pay attention, and then we do a self-correct, not an internal correct, not waiting for somebody to come and make us feel better, like I just can't live without him because I just need him so much, because he makes me feel, alive, or makes me feel, or I can't do without her because, and so we get in these ways of reaching externally for something that we actually have to go internally for. That's why it says, be a light unto your own self. Be a lamp unto your own feet. Now, he didn't say that at the beginning. He said, you need to go learn something, But then after a while, just so much learning, we can like spit it out like a Paul parrot, but can we walk it out? That's the thing. Can we walk it out? And so he says, at some point, it has to translate. You have to have the willingness to put it into practice. And then it might not feel that comfortable, the right thing, or what would be a good thing to do if you could muster up that much grace, but I just can't right now, and then just be aware of that. That's how, and after a while, you'll just stop wanting to disappoint yourself. You don't have to tell anybody else, I did good today, what a good girl am I, but you'll just stop wanting to disappoint yourself. And oh, come on, partner, why you can do better than that? And then one does better. And there's a confidence that comes with this. But not just a confidence comes. There's an expansion of mind that comes. And whose mind is it? Your mind's not in my head, it's my mind. And so there's this expansion, and one begins to have a broader view, not so narrow, not so constricted, not so confined, not so pressed down. And then one starts to feel more joy and more contentment because they have more move around space. They have different ways of thinking of something. They look and say, oh, isn't that interesting? Instead of, I know that. Or instead of, oh, I don't believe that. You know, but we become open to the wonders of creation that we are just not regularly aware of. We just become, and life takes, it's like being on that tarmac, on that runway, and you pull back and you got the right thrust, mashing on the gas pedal, you have the right pullback, you have to get the right angle, you have the right speed, and then you have lift. And that law of aerodynamics then supersedes the law of gravity. Doesn't mean the law of gravity ain't real. Go to the fourth story and step out. You know, you will go down. You know, but there are other things can be added to that. That's what I'm saying to you. That can then create or introduce you to a higher law that will work in your life. But it costs something. You know? We walk with shoes. We can spend $20, $50, $100 for shoes, but we're going to spend a lot on a plane. You know, so when you want to have that lift, know that it's going to cost you something. How much are you willing to invest to soar like an eagle? Or do you want to flap around like a turkey? No disrespect to turkeys. I'm just saying. And so, good time. So this is how we can improve our dysfunctional mental and emotional states and even our physical states. We have to go with that supporting channel of energy and get on that wavelength. We talk about mob mentality. You might go and you had a good cause and you have your placard, you know, that says, I'm for good, I'm not for evil. And then somebody pushes you and they happen to be of the other group. That placard becomes Billy Club and you start knocking people over the head with it. That was not your intention to go there. It was to stand for good. But this coming together and being impacted by other frequencies. That's why I said, watch the company that you keep. Watch the people that you hang around. Doesn't mean that you're judging them. It's just like when I'm there, that which resonates in me is not in my best spot. It's not resonating high on the scale. It resonates low. It brings up some kind of fear in me, or some kind of trepidation in me, or some kind of anger, or it brings up, so you're just governing. It's not judging them. It's judging yourself about what's beneficial for you and what's not beneficial for you. That's all. And when one has gotten to the place that they can make, like autocorrect, or they can work on these kinds of things, then you can be in an environment and you can be a stabilizer in that environment. Instead of being the barometer that measures the pressure or whatever, you can be the thermostat that sets the temperature. And so when the physical body evolves, to higher and higher states, it reaches a frequency that becomes like a light body. In the Visuddhimagga, in the Majjhima Nikaya, when it's talking about anapanasati and the mindfulness of breathing, and he talks about, the Buddha talks about the biological process of breathing and how the breathing stops. He didn't say it just like quiets down so low you don't know you're breathing. He said it S-T-O-P-S. It stops. So all of these people who tell me like they in the third, the fourth, the sixth, the eighth jhana, and they're still breathing. They are not in the one the Buddha was talking about, okay? So we shouldn't fool ourselves about our attainments. You know, it's like really having them is what counts, not just thinking we have them, but they can't measure up to the test. But within in the Dharma realm, you know, we know of many people, and I've had experiences myself. Panyadeep and I, when we were in China, and our great master, his whole temple, they were all breatharians. They did not eat food. Some breatharians, I understand, don't drink either. They absorb moisture from the atmosphere. They drank teas. And even when Master Chinzang Long would come down from the mountains, after a few days he would start to experience weakness in his body and in his mind, and then put an egg in a cup of water, and then he'd drink that water and he'd be more fortified. He'd say, soon I have to go back up to the mountain. He could do work up there. He could do work up there for the people in the village, but could not be among them because it put too much pressure on the physical body. So there's some people who do a lot of work, but not so much in the physical body. They can accomplish more with different types of bodies, and so they develop until they attain that body, and they work from that realm. They work from that level, and sometimes on occasion, one of us will have an interaction and experience with them, and some have told our stories of a luminous being presenting themselves and giving certain words or going away, or in meditation having some kind of a particular experience. And I mean, like, goodness, we don't think that this flesh and blood body is the highest kind of living capacity. I mean, surely we don't. Do we? Mm-hmm. You know, that the best of whatever caused the creation of the universes and the stars and the galaxies, the best they could come up with this little body that I could sit here and take a pin and stab into and penetrate it and poison it. Surely we don't think that that's the highest kind of body that can be had. Of course, we like to think that whatever we got, that's the highest. But there've been many, you know, I'm just speaking now to try to expand, because I get so tired of talking kindergarten, Dawn. I really do. I'm just tired of it. You know, every week coming in encouraging somebody to not feel bad about themselves. Every week coming in to encourage somebody. You know, we got to do our work, or to move on. We have to do our work. You notice how when someone is in meditation, for instance, and when they're really, we call it when they really got it in the zone or in the flow. I think if I talk and the air conditioning is on, would that be okay? Because a couple of people are getting too on. I can talk louder because I got a mic right here.
This one isn't as loud as the other two.
Okay, so just get some air moving. I think would be better for people. Thank you. One day we're gonna have Central in here. Not this year, but one day. Mm-hmm. And so Buddha speaks about reaching that state of mindfulness of breathing where the breath stops. And we sort of organically disperse into a certain light frequency for that period of time. And it transforms us for a period of time as well. So generally when we come out of that space where we've been practicing, we're feeling so so good. We loving everybody. We forgiving everybody. We are clear. Nothing is on our mind. We're not harboring any ill will, and then we just slowly, gradually revert back to how he was. And that's why he said, I call this a pleasant abiding here and now. He said, but that's not what causes the lasting transformation. That just gives you a little taste, like dipping your toe in the water. But what gives you lasting transformation is what you do off the pillow. And he said, the two greatest trainings are how to overlook a fault and tolerate a slight. Because that directly impinges upon your rights and your freedoms, as a personal being. But when we begin to give that up, then we find that we are universal beings, and we start to know our interconnectedness, not just with each other, but our interconnectedness with everything. Notice how people glow when they come out of a meditation. You can tell when somebody's had a good meditation, because they literally glow when they come out, and they're full of joy and they're light. Is your meditation like that? If not, after 20 years and tens of thousands of dollars that you paid to teachers, then you maybe should look for another. Maybe you should just investigate something else. In Jesus' day, many of his friends felt the masses of humanity should not be concerned about the lofty idea of ascension. Or for Buddhists today, we could say the lofty idea of enlightenment or awakening. But a few were in agreement with Jesus and with Buddha, saying, if you do not put the completion stage before people, they will not be able to aspire to it and will spend many lifetimes suffering due to ignorance. He didn't pressure, but he simply said, let those who have ears to hear. Buddha said, there are some who have little dust in their eyes. It would be good if I teach them the way to unbinding. It doesn't matter what you call it, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. The Sufi, the Jewish, those of other religions have names for this same path. In Vajrayana, this cultivating and transforming us into higher vibratory beings. They're called the light body. In Kriya Yoga, the bliss body. In Mithraism, it's called the perfect body. In the emerald tables, it's called the golden body. In Catholicism, it's called the holy flesh. In Christianity, the glorified or the resurrected body. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's known as the rainbow body. In Taoism, the jade body. In Sufism, the celestial body. Zia Anayat Khan said, let there be light in my heart, light in my tongue, light in my eyes and in my ears. May there be light at my right, light at my left, behind me and before me, light above me and beneath me, light in my nerves, light in my flesh and my blood, my hair and my skin. Give me light. Increase my light. Make me know my light. So today I'm sending you light to heal you and to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love.
I'm sending you light to heal you, to to hold you in love.
I'm sending you light.
I'm sending you light to
To
heal
heal
you,
you, to
to hold
hold you.
you. I'm
Sending
sending
you
you
light.
light to hold you in love.
I'm sending you light.
I'm sending you light
To heal you and hold you.
sending you light to hold you in love.
And peace.
I'm sending you peace to heal you and hold you. Sending you peace to hold you in love. Sending you joy to heal you and hold you. Sending you joy to hold you in love. Sending you light to heal you, to hold you. Sending you light to hold you in love.
May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you.